This surgeon let his 13-year-old daughter drill a hole through a patient's skull. Take Your Daughter to Work Day has gotten a little out of hand for the Graz University Hospital in Austria. Apparently, an unidentified surgeon allowed his 13-year-old daughter to drill a hole through a patient's skull as part of an emergency surgery. This isn't one of those times where you let little Timmy sound the fire alarm on the fire truck. This is brain surgery. I understand you want to have your little father-daughter bonding moment, but pick something else. This is serious. Take it to a Taylor Swift concert or something. Before we get into it any further, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot. Now with that out of the way, let's get started. An Austrian surgeon has been sacked and is facing a criminal investigation after they allegedly allowed their 13-year-old daughter to drill a hole into a patient's skull while they were performing an emergency procedure. The medic, who has not been identified, has found themselves at the center of the bizarre surgery scandal after the man who underwent the operation discovered what had gone down in the surgical suite at the Graz University Hospital. The 33-year-old patient was rushed to the facility in Styria, southeastern Austria, which is one of the largest hospitals in the country, on the 13th of January this year via air ambulance after being involved in a forestry accident. So this poor guy, who is lucky to be alive by the sound of it, is rushed to the hospital in an emergency, and this surgeon thinks to himself, what a perfect opportunity to show my daughter what I do for a living. And that's not to say that any time is a good time to be doing something like this, but this is an emergency. Someone's life is on the line. You shouldn't be teaching your kids anything right now. Sit her outside and get to work. I mean, what was he actually thinking? Okay, let's see how Julia performs under pressure. Julia, put the phone down. It's time to live in the real world. We have someone about to die. Here's your drill. Here's your scalpel. Remember what we spoke about when we were playing Operation on the weekend. Like, I'm sorry, but no, this is not the time to do it. Me personally, I'm an electrician and I would never bring my son in to come and help me wire up a switchboard. It's just dumb. How did she even get in? There are so many people at fault here. According to the local newspaper Kronen Zeitung, the man had suffered serious head injuries. He was taken into emergency surgery at around 2:45 p.m. However, it has been reported that the neurosurgeon performing the procedure allowed their teenage daughter to get involved and assist with the surgery. According to reports, the 13-year-old even shockingly drilled a hole into his skull. Although the full details of the patient's condition have not been disclosed, the procedure may be performed for a number of reasons by medics, just never usually by a child. This kind of procedure is obviously way out of scope for a child to perform. Why are we chucking poor Julia into the deep end here? Let's try her on something easier to start with. Like, I don't know, a heart transplant? For example, it may be required if a person has sustained a serious head injury or trauma which has caused fluid or blood to build up in the brain, placing pressure on tissue. Drilling a hole can therefore help drain this fluid and relieve the pressure. It could also be a treatment option for someone who has perhaps had an object lodged into their skull. I guess this is how you get those junior entry-level jobs that require 10 years of experience. This 13-year-old is going to have the weirdest resume, I swear. Okay, Julia, tell me a little bit about your work experience. Sure, I worked at McDonald's drive-thru for a little bit. I did some casual retail work at Walmart. Oh, and one time I performed brain surgery when I was 13 years old. Yeah, definitely put that in your resume. You just never know what employers are looking for nowadays, and a little bit of brain surgery experience couldn't hurt. It's always handy to have someone around in the office that can perform that kind of procedure. Despite the surgery taking place in January, the teenager's alleged involvement in it only came to light on the 26th of April when an anonymous complaint was submitted to Graz's prosecutor office. An investigation was subsequently launched, Kronen Zeitung reports, but the patient himself only found out what had happened in July of this year after reportedly realizing media reports regarding the case were about him. Police are then said to have officially informed him about the ongoing investigation into the circumstances of his operation. He survived the operation but was in intensive care for 11 days after it, and he still remains unable to work. So thankfully he survived the procedure, but I have to know, did this 13-year-old do it correctly? I guess it doesn't really matter. This whole operation was clearly not important enough for anyone in the hospital to take it seriously. Okay, honey, here's the drill. Now we're just gonna make a slight little hole in this patient's skull here. Oops, you went a bit too far. Oopsie doopsie. I guess just be a bit more careful next time. Imagine if that was you on the table. This guy could have woken up and not remembered anybody that he loves or cares about. The brain is so complicated, one little mistake could have had disastrous consequences. And this guy didn't even know it was about him. He saw the reports on the news and thought, hey, that seems oddly familiar. Oh, wait a sec, that's me. Imagine finding out like that. It makes no sense. The surgeons involved in the operation, including the neurosurgeon who allegedly outsourced the work to their daughter and another specialist who was present at the time, were reportedly dismissed by the hospital without notice. The patient's lawyer, Peter Freiberger, is now suing for damages and slammed the surgeon for treating the man like a guinea pig while he was in a vulnerable position. He said of the case, "You lie there unwilling, unconscious, and become guinea pigs. There's probably no other way to put it. That's not possible. You can't do that." No, you can't do that. Us peasants, we pay through the roof for health insurance, and not to mention the taxes that fund these hospitals, all for the people that work there to treat our lives like nothing more than a learning opportunity for their children. And on top of that, these surgeons are making more money than most of us can even fathom making. The amount of trust that we give these surgeons is unparalleled, and for them to break that trust is just beyond unacceptable. Freiberger claimed that the hospital had not been in touch with the man in wake of the revelations either. There was no contact, no explanation or apology, nothing, he said. That is simply undignified. Trauma surgery specialist Manfred Bogner told Sky News that the 13-year-old had no place inside of the operating theatre and certainly should not have been wielding surgical equipment. He said he didn't understand how the alleged incident took place, adding, "An operating theatre belongs to people who have a job to do there and no one else. And a child should not be given a drill and allowed to drill away at the bone of a seriously injured person." Graz public prosecutor Hans Joerg Bacher confirmed that the neurosurgeon and another doctor were let go by the hospital, the Daily Mail reports. According to the publication, both of them, as well as 5 others involved in the operation, are now under investigation for serious bodily harm. Bacher was quoted as saying, "We are currently still waiting for the final report from the Criminal Investigation Department. It's not surprising that the hospital didn't contact the patient. Even though it's the decent and honorable thing to do, they obviously don't want to admit fault and potentially lose in the lawsuit that's being filed." It's so ridiculous that this was even allowed to happen. I guess the only saving grace is that everyone involved is being seriously investigated and the surgeon that's responsible for all of this has been fired. I'll try and keep you all updated as more details are brought forward, but for now that's everything I have on this story. I'm sorry I missed uploading last week. Me and my family, we were dealing with a really bad stomach bug and it absolutely destroyed us all. It was honestly horrible, and I figured I have like 40 subscribers, so I thought you guys might let it slide this one time. Let me know what you thought about this story in the comments, and please like the video if you found it interesting. I like to post about weird, strange, funny, odd news, so if that's something that you're into, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. Thanks for sticking around until the end, and until next time, catch you later.